Realer than real. Realer than real.
Here we go, episode 1 of the podcast. I am so nervous. I'm so excited. I am so everything. I'm feeling all the emotions right now. But I am more than anything so happy to be here today and every day. Hallelujah. Let's do an intro first before I start rambling and getting into my, snowball of thoughts. But he, she's, gays, and theys. Welcome to the Realer Than Real podcast. I'm your host, Shamira. Sometimes in this world, we keep it real. We keep it very real. But here in this podcast, we try to keep it realer than real. Come on now, intro. Come on. So I am scared to do this. Just because, it's interesting. Because I feel like in the day and age that we're in, you see everybody's making content in some shape, way, or form. And this is not a new thing. People have been making content for forever. I think back to when I would know people who would make cooking pages, they'd make a page, an Instagram page. They'd make it for their cooking. They'd make it, I knew some friends that were baristas. They would make pages, they literally are working at big corporations. It's not like they're working at their own coffee shop or a mom and pop coffee shop. They're working at Starbucks, and they're taking a picture of all the drinks that they make throughout the day. People documenting their lives because they think that people are interested in it is not a new concept. I mean, and obviously we're not talking about reality TV stars and celebrities. I'm talking about on a small scale, people that you know, people that you went to school with, you're friends with, people you work with. Documenting what's going on in your life and putting it out on social media because you think people are interested is not a new concept, in my opinion. And especially now, we're in the day and age of 2024, and I feel like this is not a new thing. When I go out and I see people recording something, I feel like there's no longer a shock. If I walk down the aisle of Target and I see a tripod set up, I'm not like, what is this? I'm just like, oh, someone's filming something, and I just walk right past it. You know what I'm saying? So in this day and age of everybody constantly filming themselves because everybody wants something that they see content creation can give them, whether it's a small community or a large community, they see it as a second decent income, or they see it as, I want to make this my main income. People see it as I want just a little slice of that. I want to be invited to an event once. I want to get a few PR packages, or they see it as this is my end goal. I'm gonna have the lifestyle that Jackie Aina has. I'm using Jackie as an example because while I was getting ready for this podcast, I was just scrolling through her TikTok, watching it because that's my girl. But yeah, I feel like in this day and age, it's not uncommon, but here I am doing this and I'm scared. I'm nervous. And I have a YouTube channel that has over 1,000 subscribers. It is monetized. There are ads on it. And, it fluctuates, but I'm not a stranger to any type of large engagement. I've experienced that. I've had that on my YouTube channel. I've had that on my TikTok. Y'all, I was if I can just brag a little bit, I'm one of one. I'm number one. I'm the only one. I had a TikTok that Parkwood Entertainment, that is Beyonce's, entertainment brand type deal. They reached out to me. They used one of my TikToks in promotion for the Renaissance movie. I'm not a stranger to this large scale engagement, but to with this podcast, it just feels like I'm starting all over and I'm being like, hey y'all, would you mind tuning in for something else I'm doing that won't be super different from any other thing that I've done, but it's another way of meeting people where they're at. I work in marketing in real life. I have a real life job and I work in marketing and communications, and one of the biggest things of marketing is meeting people where they're at. And I think that's why so many people want to cross brand. I mean, there's a business side to cross branding when you're a content creator, because brands, they want to see how your audience will follow you from platform to platform. If you're big on TikTok, brands want to see, hey, will your audience also be engaged with you on Instagram? What about YouTube? Maybe even Twitch. So there's a business side to it, but the actual product side, I can't think of, I guess, the other name of it, but it's meeting people where they're at. I know, like, one of my best friends, we talk about, like, you know, we're always just catching up with each other, always talking about social media and stuff, and she does not have a TikTok. And so just, I'm using her as an example, but she does not have a TikTok, and so it's whenever I'm updating her, I'm like, oh, there's this conversation going on TikTok. What do you think about it? I have to, like, you know, kind of summarize it, give her the backstory and stuff, meet her where she's at. And so that's really what I'm doing with this, is I'm just trying to reach a new audience. I want to meet some people where they're at, and I want to see, like, what everyone is talking about all the time. Like, I don't know. Podcasts have always kind of interested me because I feel like my mic is actually super high. Yellow? Oh God, the way I'm going to have to edit that sound. That's frightening. That's terrifying. But yeah, that's one of the things that's so terrifying. I've never been super well versed in working with sound on anything. Obviously in my YouTube videos, working on sound is kind of a different concept, but now working on the audio for, you know, to upload this to Spotify and hopefully anywhere where you listen to podcasts, fingers crossed, I'll be able to become well versed in sound audio engineering. I'm gonna take a quick sip of my drink really quick so I can give myself a brain break. That's something else I'm nervous about, is that when you're filming a YouTube video, when you're filming, you know, a TikTok, you can do several takes of something. The whole reason, or not the whole reason, but another reason I want to do a podcast is because I was like, you know, it'll just be a stream of consciousness and I can just kind of talk and let things flow. But the problem is that I stutter and I take pauses and some things don't come out right the first time and I need a few tries to get it through. So I think there's a little plus and minus to this. Like right now, in my head, I'm thinking, how do we get here? How do we get to this point in talking? And how do I get myself out of it seamlessly? And I don't think there is a way to do that. So I'm just gonna move to the next topic. Thank you very much. Let's see. There's a lot of discourse on TikTok right now about content creators and their friends. And do their friends support their content? And it's a very interesting topic because I feel like, and I'm gonna be very honest here, as someone who does create content in various different platforms, I will say this. A lot of my friends are subscribed to my YouTube channel and they do follow it. And they will watch the content when they have the time to. This is the thing that I think, this is a piece of the conversation that people are missing out on. My friends love me, I love them. I feel like it would be unfair for me to think that they can always create time in their life to watch the video or, you know, watch the TikTok, or in this case, listen to the podcast. But that's the thing about any type of the content that I just listed. You can watch it whenever. But I feel like there are people that will say, well, if they wanted to, they would. And I get that. I totally get that. But I think about it in terms of this. If I go on my phone right now and I go to my notes app, the heaven sent notes app where anything between like your passwords can live. People keep their grocery list in there, journaling, like just little thoughts. I have a running list of movies that I want to watch, or movies that people have told me. No, it's actually a mix. It's movies that I want to watch and movies that people have recommended to me. And when I tell y'all, let's say there's about 60, maybe even 70 movies on that list. It's actually probably 50. But there's a large number on that list. When I tell y'all I have watched a total, and I've started this list, honestly, I couldn't even tell you when, so let's just say I started it in 2017. It was 2024, and I've managed to watch one movie on that list. So sometimes I don't think it's a matter of if they wanted to, they would. Sometimes you're just tired, dude. Like, I don't know. I'm not trying to oversimplify it because I think I'm not trying to gaslight any of the people who say, I think my friends are secretly jealous of me, or, you know, my friends aren't supportive, because I've had a situation like that where I felt like one of my friends wasn't, like I had a friend that I genuinely thought wasn't being supportive of what I was doing, and we were both creators. Basically, with that story, I'll come back to the point I was making, but I want to tell this story really quickly. I was making content on YouTube and TikTok. This was right around like March 2020. So earliest parts of the pandemic, and we used to all work at a restaurant together, and the restaurant had closed down. But me, this friend, and another person, we like had a little group message. Now, mind you, me and this friend, we already had a falling out over something else. That's a story for another day. Maybe if I ever do like a segment of, they have that topic on Reddit of like, am I the asshole? I could do that where I just tell stories about like, do you all think I'm in the wrong? But anyway, I won't do that. But anyway, so we'd already kind of been on rocky ground. So I made content on social media and this friend made music. And he had asked me to use his song in one of my TikToks. And at this point, this was like earlier on in the TikTok days. Like I said, it was around 2020. Kind of like before TikTok looked like what it looked like now. And it was still very much like dancing and memes and stuff. And this friend asked me to use one of his songs and post it at a certain time. Now this was when like, if you look up best times to post on TikTok and you see like that list, it's not inaccurate, but when I first started, I was definitely trying to adhere to that time. He wanted me to post outside of this time using a song that no one had heard of from someone that like was relatively unknown. And I was just kind of like, I was putting it off because I didn't want to use it because I had been having good luck with like posting on time, using popular sounds, using popular trends, and hashtags that like had a positive outcome. But I said, I'm going to do it because I'm a friend of his. The TikTok flopped so bad. And I'm not saying that I get amazing numbers on everything, but it flopped really bad. And when I posted it to him, I sent it to him. 2 hours went by and he texted me and he said, did you post it? And one thing about me that y'all are going to learn real quick, I hate people that don't have common sense. Because if I sent you the video and said I posted it, then why are you asking me if I posted it? Please. Oh, girl, please. So I said, yeah, it doesn't have a ton of likes right now, but it could still get up there. I'm being nice. I know it's pretty much not going to go anywhere from here. But then he texted me maybe, let's say 4 hours later. And he said, how many likes does it have now? When I first texted him, it maybe had 2 likes. When he texted me again, it maybe had 15. Decent for it to be posted at a time that's not optimal and using a song that doesn't have any like engagement or push behind it, decent. He texted me one more time, like at the end of the day, like nighttime, let's say 10 o'clock, and asked how many likes does it have? Let's say it had 19 now. And then that was it. 2 weeks later, he asked me to do the same thing for him again. But the text that I never got from him was a thank you. And I don't know if that's petty or not, but I feel like not even just friend to friend, because friend to friend, I still tell my friends thank you for stuff all the time. My friends come up here to my mom's funeral. None of them live in Baltimore, Maryland, and they all came up here from various parts. That was on like one of my friends' birthday weekends. And I have told them thank you several times over and over again. I'm always going to tell my friends thank you. I'm going to tell people thank you in general. So the fact that this person didn't thank me for it as a friend was already my first problem. Sorry, I heard rushing water from upstairs in my neighbor's apartment. I also want everyone to know, for those who are not watching this on YouTube, I'm filming my podcast in my apartment. We're getting realer than real, babe. But going back to the story, he didn't thank me as a friend, but it was also he didn't thank me as a creator. And I feel like, he didn't thank me. He also didn't engage with the video himself. This was before reposting on TikTok was a thing. He didn't do anything with the video. So you didn't thank me as a friend. You didn't thank me as a creator. It definitely didn't slap me no money. One of my friends does like digital art and stuff. Before I was like super confident in my abilities with Canva and stuff like that, I asked him to make me a YouTube banner. He didn't even ask for money, and I probably paid him at least $20, maybe 15. Let me not overshoot it, but I definitely paid him for it, even though he didn't ask me for anything. Because that is what you do, regardless of if it's a friend or not. You pay your people for things that they do for you. But I didn't even want any money at that point. He never said thank you. So where am I going with this? Because I know we're talking about if your friends support you, or is it how do you feel if your friends support you? I think, let me take a sip before I say my thought, because I'm trying to make sure I have an actual well-formulated thought to say. I think that support looks different in every way. which I feel like maybe is a cop-out answer, but hear me out. I feel like there are some friends, like, for example, on TikTok, there are some people who always somehow end up liking my videos. I won't say they like all my videos. I don't want to put them in a situation, or I don't want to put them in a narrative that makes it seem like I'm calling them a fan. I would never do that. I'm not going to call someone else a fan of me. That is weird. But there are people who end up liking all my videos. And that is the way they show support. They might not comment, but they will like it. There are people who always comment on my stuff. I have people like on YouTube, like especially when I ask a question in a YouTube video to kind of like gain some engagement, there are people who will answer that question. They might not comment on anything else in the video, but they will answer the question that I asked them in the video. Support looks different for everybody. And I think, one, you should cut your friends some slack if you see that there's an effort there. I understand maybe the frustration, because I've had this moment myself too of like, if I post on my Instagram story that I have a new video on YouTube, and let's say 200 people see it, and I go look at my video and there's 6 views on it, and I'm like, oh, okay, all right. But there's so many layers to this conversation. There really are so many layers. And I saw this TikTok, I think it had to be last night, I saw it, and this woman was just like, what if your friends don't like your content? Did you ever think about that? And I said, oh, okay. Let's clock that tea. Let's wake that tea up, because that's true. I'm sitting up here and on my YouTube channel and on my TikTok and now on here, I might think I'm the most relatable person ever, and that there's no way that anyone couldn't want to watch me. And somebody could just be like, oh, that's not my cup of tea. It could be someone that I know, someone that I went to literal college with, and they're like, sorry, that's not my cup of content. That's not my cup of tea. But let's change the phrase to my cup of content now. Why not? I think there's so many layers to it, but in terms of me and in terms of how I create content, I think that you want your friends and your family to always support you, because those are, if you count the number of friends you have, even if it's just 2 other friends you have, and you count your entire family, and let's say you have a large family, you're like, okay, that is a solid group of people that I know will always have my back. But sometimes I think that, how do I put this? I think that's kind of the fun in creating content, is you get to create a whole different community. Of course I have my friends and I have my family, and that is a community in and of itself. But of course I have them in a community as it relates to my content. But what is even more exciting and more exhilarating and more gratifying with content is when I get a comment from someone who maybe doesn't follow me, I don't follow them, and let's say on TikTok, they like one of my videos, they might leave a little comment, and they might, I might get a notification that so-and-so visited my page, and they might have liked another video of mine. This discourse has a lot of ins and outs to it. It's a very broad conversation. And I think there's a lot of takes to be made. But what I will say, am I still, okay, had to make sure I was still recording audio. Could you imagine if it just stopped? But hold on, let me take a sip and let me finish my points. I feel like I was about to get to a good place. What I will say about it, if you have friends and you enjoy their content, or at the very least you want to just let them know, hey, I think you're doing a good job at whatever it is that you do, drop them a like, and maybe just text them. Even if you, because I know some people, I feel like some people maybe don't want to do something public. Some people will not comment on my videos at all, but they will text me all of their thoughts about my video, and I'm like, oh, okay. Okay, well, that's what a comment section is for, but thank you, Buki. And that's fine. It's a tough conversation to have. All in all, I think if you're the type of friend that's like, I want to engage with my friend's content because I know that that's what they want, do it. But if you're the friend that's not going to do that, go to hell. No. Oh, that's fine. Maybe I take a quick break right now. I feel like our break's allowed. I'm going to take a quick break. Okay, we're back. Take a quick sip from my non-Stanley, which I think is just fine. The discourse right now about Stanley cups and kids in Sephora, it has taken over my For You page, and it's getting to the point now where I'm just a little sick of it. Let me take a quick sip though. It's to the point now where, like, I would feel like a hypocrite if I had something to add to it because I'm just so sick of seeing the videos. Like, I really am. I think that, actually, you know what? No, I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it. Kids in Sephora does not bother me. People are like, oh, kids want to wear adult makeup nowadays, or kids aren't wearing kids things anymore. I don't know about y'all. And it could just be because I don't watch a lot of cable TV anymore. The only times I watch cable TV is when I'm staying in a hotel, and it is the most nauseating experience of my life. I hate cable TV now, even though we very well all might be going back to it, because at this point we're paying the same rate we paid when we were paying for like your average Comcast or your DirecTV dish, but that's another conversation for another day. I could be wrong when I say this. I don't see a lot of ads and products for kids makeup. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, when we would have that little like pink kit and those little like, it's essentially what it is like probably like Vaseline, but it's like, it has like face appropriate or face safe dye in it with a little bit of glitter. And they give you like a little like paintbrush almost for your lips. And you put it on, you're like, oh, my little lipstick. I don't know if that's a thing anymore. I don't know if that's a thing, but I just, yes, there is a problem with kids in our society having to grow up so fast. I definitely think that's an issue. But I also feel like brands are marketing their things to not feel so adult. You know what I'm saying? I feel like when I was growing up, I thought L'Oreal was like an old person brand. I remember L'Oreal made this toner in a pink bottle. No, it was a clear bottle. The toner was pink, and I think it had like this white round lid on it. And something about that product to me looked and it smelled like what I would consider to be an old lady perfume. L'Oreal and Maybelline had very like old woman feeling to it. And I think that the reason that it's become more obtainable to kids is because kids grew up watching creators, you know, makeup people on YouTube and now people on TikTok. You're watching people who are relatable and they're fun and they're using makeup that maybe at one point you thought, oh, maybe that's for adults. And there's this idea that anybody can do this. And when the knowledge of how to do makeup and the accessibility of where to get certain clothes is made more accessible, for lack of a better word, it's not hard for people to wear that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, what I'm wearing now isn't necessarily like, it doesn't belong to a certain age, but I'm trying to think, if I was going out, like let's say I wanted to look nice, my go-to would probably be, if I was going out to like the bars. In this weather, girl, I probably wouldn't go, but I probably do like leather pants. I mean, I'll do the classic, all black, right? We love a good leather pants, like faux leather pants, of course, because I'm environmentally conscious. Faux leather pants and like a tight like black top. That stuff is so obtainable to anybody of any age. I don't know. I just feel like it's not, I don't want to say it's not an issue, because I think there is something kind of scary about how fast kids are growing up. And more importantly, I think it's honestly kind of scary, especially for young girls, to not have an ugly phase. Like, their ugly phase for them is like, girl, middle school me would have given a limb to have that look like my ugly phase. The girls aren't ugly anymore. That's the problem. But I spent 5 minutes talking about it. I said I wasn't going to talk about it, so I'm going to move on. When I was working on the notes for this podcast, I said, how do I want to introduce myself? I've never been someone who wanted to do the standard, like, hi, my name is, and I'm from X, Y, and Z, and I have this many siblings. That to me is very boring. It doesn't really tell me about yourself, it doesn't tell me about yourself, and it doesn't help you learn about me. I really think that's just a test to see, like, how much information can someone pull together about themselves when they're put under pressure, which maybe is a way you could learn something about someone. But I thought of something more fun. If you all have listened to my kind of like teaser episode, I mentioned in there how I'm very big on pop culture. I love pop culture. I'm so into it. People that spend their time online and they're like, oh, I don't know how you guys can pay attention to celebrity lives and pop culture is so boring. Can we talk about things that actually matter? Pop culture shapes our society. Yes, there are things in science and politics that also shape our society. I'm not saying that. I'd be a fool to say that. But, like, okay, for example, I don't know if you guys remember these, but I feel like maybe when I was somewhere between 8 to maybe 14, on VH1 they had this series called I Love the Insert a Decade Here. Those were by far the most enriching experiences on TV I've ever had in my life. I learned so much about decades that I would just have no idea what they were like. Yeah, you have like I knew that in the 60s, you know, everyone had like the ponytail and like the curled bang, and they'd have like their poodle dresses. I don't know why I said poodle, but that's what I'm imagining on the dresses, and it's polka dots and it's like bowling shoes and like those fluffy like layered socks, right? That's the 60s in a nutshell when I think about like pop culture wise. But I learned about so many other things. I don't think it went back to the 60s. It probably started at the 70s. I would love to watch those again. I actually would love to know if those are available anywhere. I want to do a quick Google search because I definitely feel like they have to be. Now watch, they're probably like on VH1's subscription-based platform. Let's see. I'm not trying to have any dead air, so I'm going to talk while I'm typing this. Let's do 90s. VH1, let's see. Oh, it says you can watch it somewhere. But where? Oh my God, where is it? Wait, everyone shut up. Where is it? You guys, it's not telling me where I can watch it, but I'm very interested. But I'm saying this was such a good resource. If you wanted to learn about pop culture in this time, fashion, music, TV, celebrity scandals, this was where you could find it. Oh, it says you can watch it on YouTube. It better be YouTube Premium or YouTube Plus. But that's fun. Okay, but I'm saying all that to say that's how I learned so much about the 90s and the 2000s and the 80s. And they would select certain celebrities to be in them and talk about them. So that helped me kind of learn a little bit of the celebrity and be able to place them. You know, I now have a face to the name or a name to the face. So I like to learn about people's ideas on certain pop culture events. And that's how I want to introduce myself to you all. So I've chosen 5 pop culture events that have happened in my entire lifetime that have shaped the way that I interact with life and pop culture in general. In no specific order, the first thing I want to do, I think I want to come out the gate swinging, you guys. Lady Gaga's paparazzi performance from the 2009, I want to say 2009, but I could be wrong, the 2009 VMAs. There's right now a thread going on Twitter where people are saying like, what's the time that a celebrity gagged the audience? And I don't think I even finished reading the tweet before I thought of that. That performance made me the woman I am today. Lady Gaga had to say in her mind, I want to make history. Like that Debbie Ryan meme. I don't know exactly what she says, but I've seen it before. She had to know in her mind that she was going to make history that night. She set out to do something great, and great, she did greater than great. It was realer than real, y'all. I swear. That performance to this day gives me chills. If I'm listening to paparazzi, like if it comes up on Spotify, I will immediately go to YouTube and I will watch the performance. I can't even listen to the song the same way. From the second that the performance starts, she has men dancing in like all white lace and pearls. Hello? Hello? There's so much noise right now in my apartment. I think it's just my neighbor outside talking. I know, it took me out of my rhythm. From the second the performance starts, she has men dancing in lace and pearls and stuff, and it's gorgeous. And she's like, does she start in the wheelchair, or does she starts in the wheelchair and then she gets up? Actually, let me just pull it up right here. I'm gonna talk as it's on. Not me basically doing a reaction video. It won't be a reaction. I just want to make sure that I'm talking about it in the right order, because I don't want someone to be like seething while they're watching or listening to this and they're like, you're getting it wrong. I trust my instincts. She started off in the wheelchair, which already kind of gagged people, because it's like, girly pop, what are you doing in the wheelchair? Like that's that's very new. Like, what are you doing? And it's just so dramatic. And also her body, because this might have been the first time in the music video where she's always had a good looking physique. We've seen her in certain videos, like, kind of showing that off, but like she was literally in a bra and underwear and maybe like fishnets. Like, her body was bodying. So the body, the theatrics of her being in a wheelchair. Also vocally, there's a part in the second verse, she's singing and she does the, oh yeah. Like, everything about this performance set it up to be iconic. But nothing, if you have not seen this performance, I don't want to spoil it for you. Pause this, go on YouTube, watch the performance, and then come back. Because what I'm about to tell you right now will shock you if you've never seen it before. When, you know, on the place where the bridge is, where she does that, like, the little piano breakdown. And you're like, oh, it's building. You, like, the piano playing is hectic. One, you know, in signature Lady Gaga style, she has her leg up on the piano. And she just is playing the piano like a crazy person. Like, just smashing on the keys, but still making a beautiful melody. The music in the background is building. Oh, I'm just getting chills thinking about it. Oh my God, it's so good. And then Stephanie Germanotta gets up and there is blood dripping from her ripped torso. Oh my God. When I tell y'all, I don't remember how young Shamira felt watching that. I'm not gonna lie, I was probably a little mortified because I feel like I was a little afraid of Lady Gaga at first. I'm not even gonna lie. But how adult Shamira feels is that there are people who I think are great performers. Obviously, Beyonce is the performer. Bruno Mars, an amazing performer. Who else? Who else puts on a good show? Those are the first two, and the only two I can think of for right now. But I'll just say them. In my mind, those are Adele's another one. Those are great performers in my mind, like top tier performers. I know if I see them on a stage, whether it's at an award show, if I'm blessed to see them live, I know I'm gonna get a show that I'm gonna feel changed by. So those are amazing performers all the time. That is a top tier performance. That cannot be replicated. What she did cannot be replicated. Beyonce, Bruno Mars, Adele, they will put on great performances all the time. And I'm clearly no shade ever to any of them. But Lady Gaga's paparazzi performance, I'm getting hot just thinking about it now. That blood dripping down her torso. Fake blood, by the way, fake blood. Iconic. Iconique. Something about that performance woke something up inside of me. And I said, oh, I will no longer accept mediocrity from any performer ever. When you get on that stage, you need to be setting out to make history every single time. And artists like Beyonce and Bruno Mars and Adele set out to do that. Every single time they get on stage, I'm captivated. That performance woke something up inside of me. It said, wake up. And just how good, you know what especially I love about the performance, because the shock of the blood, and I love that when she turns around and it starts flowing down her body, you can hear an audible gasp from the audience and just utter shock. I love it. Like, everyone's like, and it is silent in the room. If she was not singing, you'd be able to hear a pin drop in that audience. So she's singing, and then vocally, I love what she does in that performance, because then it sounds like she's crying, because paparazzi is very much, it's like, it kind of, I don't want to be wrong in the message of the song. It kind of, from my mind, it's talking about like the hysteria of being a famous person. And so in that song, her, like, when she's singing it live and it's like, she's crying, she's pleading in the end, oh, it's beautiful. And then the dancers all swarm around her and she's like screaming, she's like, help, like, it's so dramatic. And then she's hoisted up by the thing and the music stops and the dancers are on their hands and knees and they're doing this kind of motion and the mic drops. It takes the audience at least 2 seconds to start clapping because they are still trying to process what they just saw. Quite literally one of the best, like, I literally have chills talking about it, y'all. And I'm not trying to be a crazy person here, but Stephanie, you will always be famous. So that's one of the things I think that has shaped me and just my views on pop culture in general. is that performance. That performance to me set the bar of like what an amazing performance looks like. I have beef with the VMAs for right now, but I in general just feel like award shows are just not as popular as they used to be. I feel like people aren't tuning in for them as much. I can say for myself, like, sorry you guys, I just burped. Sorry. But I say for myself that I used to be sad every single time an award show came on, and now I never know when they're coming up, and I don't know until I get on Twitter and like Pop Crave is like, oh, Quinta Brunson stuns on the red carpet, and I'm like, oh, there's an award show on tonight. But that set the precedent for me because I feel like, how do I put this in a way that's not disrespectful to MTV? The VMAs are maybe not the biggest stage. They are a big stage for music now. I don't want to say that, but like I'm thinking if I was Gaga and I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna, perform at every award show this year, I want to save this performance for the Grammys to really shock and all, because the Grammys is like a big night of music. She just rocked that VMA stage. Like she gave it her all, and that really set the precedent for me of like I only want to see good performers do what they have to do. Now, of course, I'm not gonna knock someone if they don't perform on that level, because not every artist has music that allows them to perform at that level. But that is my indicator for a good performance, and if something can compete with that, I'm obsessed. The second thing that kind of shaped my mindset or had a heavy kind of a heavy influence on my view on pop culture is Euphoria. Euphoria, the TV show. HBO's own Euphoria. I know it's a very recent one, but I said things in my entire lifetime. I feel like I typically don't watch the most popular shows when everyone else is watching them. I know it's giving very much hipster, like mid 2010s hipster. I promise that's not me. But sometimes I just don't. Like I watch things after everyone else. Like I know I watch Bird Box after everybody. I watch Tiger King after everybody. Like it just ends up happening. And I even started Euphoria late, but I put like a poll in my Instagram story and I was like, should I watch this? I got an overwhelming response. I got the most views on an Instagram story that day. Like that was like the most views I've ever gotten. And the response was a loud roaring yes. So I said, okay, I'll watch it. When I tell y'all, nothing could have prepared me for what I was tuning into. Euphoria was a moment and a half. Now, I know we've all heard that filming is supposed to start this year. I have my money on Euphoria being canceled. If anyone wants to take me up on that bet, I'm putting $5 down. Only to one person. I'm not giving everybody $5. I'm giving one person $5 for this, but I generally do see Euphoria being canceled. I don't see it continuing. I think that all of the stars of the show have so much going on. I don't see them having time to film it again. I also know that we lost Angus Cloud in 2023. Rest in peace. That was very sad. So I don't know. I don't see it continuing really, but for what it was, there was nothing like Euphoria Sunday, you guys. And if you missed out on it, I'm so sorry for you. Especially if you missed out on Euphoria Sundays and you had social media, because you're not watching the show, but you're having to see everybody's tweets, and I know that had to drive some of y'all crazy, because it drove me crazy. Here I am scrolling on, Twitter Sunday night, and all I'm seeing is, oh girl, Cassie, no. And I'm like, who is Cassie? Who is Maddie? What is Rue doing? Who is this Jules y'all speaking of? It drove me crazy until I got into it, and then I started live tweeting, and that's really what made it more fun. Live tweeting it. Also, I'd be texting my best friend who was watching it. I'd be texting my mom who I got to watch it. Like, Euphoria Sundays was a social aspect to it. The show aside, Euphoria Sundays was one of the few times that all the internet was bonded. Now, we might not have agreed on certain, are you a Cassie apologist or are you on Maddie's side? Do you think Nate's actually crazy or do you feel bad for him? What does everyone think about Kyle Jacobs? I'm a Kyle Jacobs apologist, I'll be very honest. Because I love you, Eric Dane. But Euphoria Sundays was such a time. But the show itself, it was just so gritty and so in your face. And I don't think... I'm struggling to think of a show like that in our lifetime. I know that Shameless was probably close to it. I did not watch Shameless. I'm kind of debating on if I should start it now because I might be interested in it. But Shameless was a moment. But I think the difference between Shameless and Euphoria is that Euphoria was... It was meant for maybe people to not see themselves in, but they could kind of like they could put themselves in that scenario with the girls. No, I might not see myself in Maddie, but I can imagine how I would react if I was Maddie's friend. And, oh, sorry, let me just say all right now, spoilers. I'm about to maybe do some spoilers right now if you haven't seen it. I can imagine if I was Maddie's friend and she's banging on that bathroom door for Cassie after she just found out that Cassie and Nate had just been hooking up on New Year's Eve. I can imagine being right there with Maddie and, oh my God, I'm forgetting her name, Kat. I feel so bad because I'm a Kat apologist. Sam Levinson, you will pay for what you did. I can imagine how I'd react. I can imagine how I would be comforting her and being like, girl, screw her. Like, let's go jump her. Like, let's wait for her to leave and then we'll jump her. Euphoria it was a moment in time. And I'm so sad that it is inevitably going to end the way it ends. I feel like, the season finale for whatever the last season was, I don't know if it was 3 or 4, that finale had so many open endings. And it'll honestly be very heartbreaking to see it get canceled because everyone wanted to know what was going to happen. What's going to happen with Nate and Cassie? Cassie is already, by the time of the end of the season, Cassie has already gotten her dose of really what it's like to date Nate. It's not this, oh, the world's against us kind of thing. It's like, oh girl, no, he's against you too. We'll never know what's going to happen with Rue and that suitcase and Lori, which that episode where Rue went to her house and then she woke up in her house and she, like, the first half of the episode was her trying to get out of that woman's house was the most frightening thing I've ever seen on TV. Nerves. We'll never know what happened. We'll never know what happened when the police were at Fez and Ashtray's house and they're doing that shootout and we don't know what happened. The police were shooting at the bathroom where Ashtray was. They shot a lot and everyone's like, is he dead? Is he dead? I had my theories about it and I talked about it on TikTok. I don't think he's dead, but we'll never know. And that's really heartbreaking, but for what it was, Euphoria and Euphoria Sundays were such a moment in time. I so badly crave another TV show like that really kind of keeps all of us together. I'm waiting for it. It could be a comedy, it could be lighthearted. I think that'd be kind of fun, but it can also be just as gritty. But I want something like that. I feel like The Weeknd tried to do that with The Idol, which I did watch. But I feel like a lot of people didn't, and so it didn't really give me that community aspect. But Euphoria Sundays, what a moment in time. The next thing, of course, she has to be in probably everyone's countdown, at least if you have taste. Beychella. Or I guess it's Beachella then. But Beyonce's performance at Coachella, again, when we're talking about performances and we're looking at someone's work ethic, you're not going to find an artist who is more dedicated to their craft and more involved in their craft than Beyonce. And we see it in her documentaries. We saw it in Coachella. And if you didn't see the Renaissance movie, which one I think unfortunately now it is out of theaters. I think its last day in theaters was this past Friday, which was the 12th, January 12th. But Coachella was a moment in time. And I did not go, so I saw the Netflix special. And I think something that always stood out to me and something that I was really looking forward to when Renaissance came out is those transitions. And I remember when I was watching the Netflix special, and for those of you who haven't seen it, spoiler alert, but her opening number, right after she does like the parade kind of like march in song, she opens up with Crazy in Love. And y'all know when she's about to do right before she does the and she does the drop it, and it changes from the yellow outfit to the pink outfit. I remember being like, how did she do this? Like, how does someone do this? And from the Renaissance movie, I now understand Beyonce is so precise in her, like, I don't know what the term is, but like her mapping, like where everyone stands on stage, and the performances are so precise every night. Obviously she's gonna have hiccups, she's human. She actually talks about that in her Renaissance movie. But she's so precise that she's able to make these exact transitions. In the Renaissance movie, I want to say, like, which scene is, I mean, there's so many scenes, but the first one I'm thinking of is when she's performing Diva and she switches into the, like, I Wanna Rock kind of like dance break. In the movie, it changes, I think, I want to say between 4 different outfits. And in each one, it is just, it's the same, it's basically the same frame. She is standing the same in each frame, and it's because she's so precise and so specific. How could you not commend an artist who is so dedicated to their craft? I think about too, this may have been an interview with Oprah, but something else I like about Beyonce, because I feel the same way. They don't make albums anymore. Beyonce said it herself. People don't make albums anymore. They want to put out a single here and there, and that's it. I love Beyonce's dedication to making an album, a cohesive piece of work. I'm not going to knock an artist if they don't. But there is something that is so special as a listener and as an appreciator of just musical, just genius. I love when you can tell an album is cohesive. Even if each track doesn't blend into the other, there is something about, I remember when Adele said this and people got in her throat about it. Pause, not in her throat. But people were very upset with her. She basically said that Spotify should take away the shuffle option when listening to an album, because artists, they list out tracks in a specific order. The album is meant to be listened to in a specific order, and shuffle ruins that. And I, will say that if you listen to an album on first run in shuffle, you're a psycho. Like, that's actually crazy. Like, you could be missing out on so many different things. I can't believe people actually do that. I think the first blend of songs that I remember, it was a Panic at the Disco song. And I don't remember the song before it. But whatever album that, oh my God, I'm about to embarrass myself. I'm about to embarrass myself in my emo phase I went through in middle school and high school. What is the name of the song? I chimed in with a haven't you even let her heard of? That song, I can't think of the name. Whatever album that song is on, the song right before it blends into it. And that was the first time that I'd ever experienced two songs that were back to back on an album that blended into each other. And from then on, I've been a big fan of that. But even if albums don't blend into each other like that, or songs don't blend into each other like that, it's important to hear the way an artist laid out certain songs. I think about Jasmine Sullivan's album from, 2021, Hose Tales, which, that album, I'm gonna do a segment right here talking about some of my favorite albums that I can listen through all the way through, and that's one of them. Jasmine, you will always be famous to me for that one. That album, even if you listen to it without the little anecdotes from the people that, are telling the stories, setting up the songs, but even though those mini stories, they set up the songs. It's meant to be listened to. I need to breathe. Going back to Beyonce and going back to Beychella. Man, I remember I was in college, I think it was my senior year, and I just remember one night, I must have been on duty, because don't embarrass me like that. Note for next time, I need to unplug Big Lexi, because I did not know she was going to do that. But I was probably on duty that night because I was an RA, and I was like, I'm so bored. Let me watch this because I've been putting it off. And I remember having chills. Like, I was praying the duty phone didn't ring because I was like, I do not want to get up. I want to watch this. It changed my opinion of Beyonce. I've always loved Beyonce's music. I never really had a concept of her as a performer. I've seen her Super Bowl performances. When she performed by herself, she headlined it. And then I saw it when she performed, I think it was Coldplay that was actually performing that for that one Super Bowl. But what ended up happening is that Beyonce and Bruno Mars took it over, and I completely forgot Coldplay was there. But I've seen her perform several times. I've always thought she was a good performer. I never had a strong enough opinion about it. But now, if someone asks me who I think is one of the greatest performers of my lifetime, or any lifetime, or of all time, I will absolutely say Beyonce. I will absolutely put her up there. And I have the stats and numbers and the ideas to back it up. Beyonce is a performer. She will always put in, oh my God, I don't want to repeat what she says in her movie, but if you have not seen Renaissance, like I said, the time is over now, but when it hits streaming, make sure you listen to it. Make sure you go watch it, because right in that opening part where she talks about the crew, and she talks about, one of the things I like that she talks about in her movie that I applied to a part of my life. I was working on a project. She talked about how working with lights, she likes to keep things simple. A lot people think that you always need a lot of light on something. You always need the most light. She likes to simplify things down to get to the point. You don't want to have too many distractions around all the time. You want to know what your center point is, and you want to be able to focus it. And hearing her talk about that, I'm like, that makes sense. But that just shows how involved she is with the process. She's involved with the lights. She's involved with the stage design. Beyonce's Coachella performance would have been great regardless. If Beyonce just showed up and she had a creative director there who was like, okay, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, it would still be a good performance. The reason that Beachella was so good is because you know that Beyonce has a hand in everything. And that's what makes her such a good performer. And that's what makes Beachella on my list of pop culture moments that have affected me. The next one, and this is kind of sad. I probably don't want to end on this sad note, but this is the only one I have left. It was me experiencing my first celebrity passing, which was Michael Jackson. I remember when Michael Jackson passed away, me, my mom, and my brother, we were in Walmart. I will never forget this moment. My grandmother calls my mom, and she is hysterically crying. And y'all, you would have thought that Michael Jackson was related to us by blood, the way that my grandmother was basically blood curdling, screaming into the phone. She was hysterical. And my mom is like, what's going on? What's going on? And she's, I'm not laughing, but it because I've had this moment, I've had this same kind of like feeling towards a celebrity passing away. But she's just like, he's gone, he's gone. And then she's eventually able to make out that my grandmother suspected that Michael Jackson passed away. And at that point, when did he pass? I want to say 2008, maybe. Unfortunately, the only things I grown up knowing about Michael Jackson, I knew his big songs, obviously Beat It, Thriller and stuff like that. But at the time that I was growing up in media, there was always a lot of jokes about the allegations that followed him throughout the later half of his life. And I hate that that was something I grew up with, because for me as a child, I feel like that overshadowed the star that he was and the influence that he had. And I hate that. So after he passed, my grandmother would play his music a lot, and I would get into it. And I'm someone who, if I have an interest in something, I will dive into it deep. Dive on in. And I fell in love with his music. I really did. It's hard to not fall in love with Michael Jackson's music. It's just great. Great. That is a word that just barely scratches the surface, but Michael Jackson's music is just, it is a vibe all the time. There is a Michael Jackson song to match every single vibe. My personal favorite is Human Nature. I think Human Nature is one of the most beautiful songs ever. I love it. But his passing, I think, was the first time I had felt a strong connection to a celebrity passing away. When they televised his funeral, boy, I was crying like I had lost a family member. It was so sad, hearing all these celebrities perform. Jennifer Hudson did a performance of Will You Be There? Another beautiful Michael Jackson song. I thought that was lovely. I know Usher performed. I'm struggling to think of who else performed. But I remember his kids speaking. And oh boy, when I tell y'all, I'm just, now that I'm thinking about it, I feel like I had such I feel like I had such a strong, empathetic, feeling to this. Because I feel like I don't know. Now that I'm thinking about it, I feel like I was a very emotionally mature kid to be so empathetic. Because I know as an adult, if I was watching that, seeing his kids talk about their dad having been passed away, as someone who lost their mom, I would be able to agree, not agree, but I'd be able to be very empathetic towards them. But even before I lost my mom, let's say in 2020, if I was watching that, I would cry because I'm an adult and I can only imagine how that feels. But as a kid, I remember being so emotional about it because I just saw kids that were sad about their dad passing, and I just remember being like, dang, like that's really insane. But this was the first time I felt like I made a connection to an artist, and now I'm understanding that the world has to go on without them. And that was very heartbreaking for me. I feel the same now about Whitney Houston. When Whitney Houston passed, I didn't know a lot about her. And now as I sit back and I listen to her songs and I take in her vocal abilities, when I'm listening to some of her songs. Now, I want to say this, I am in no way musically trained. I know certain musical words. I know staccato. I don't actually know what that means, but I know the word. I understand certain musical things, but I'm not going to be like, oh, she sang that in her chest voice. I don't know anything about that. But when I hear something done musically well, or I know that something is difficult, because I've trained my ear to do so, I'm so sad that like the world doesn't have that talent anymore. And that's how I feel about Michael Jackson. That's how I feel about Whitney Houston. Later on in life, I think the next time I had that just that gut-wrenching feeling about a celebrity passing, I feel like I say that phrase all the time now. I will never forget, but I swear I'll never forget this, you guys. This had to be when I was in high school, I think. Maybe like a freshman in high school. I remember this girl that I used to be friends with in middle school. I was not friends with her anymore at this time. So the fact that she texted me this was actually kind of crazy. Like, actually wild. But she texted me and she said, hey, mind you, we haven't talked since middle school. She said, hey, do you still watch Glee? And I said, yeah, sometimes. Also, let me let y'all know, this was probably like at 11 at night. She's like, do you still watch Glee? And I was like, yeah, sometimes. And she says, that main guy from Glee, I'm seeing on the news that he passed away. This is the first thing she says to me. We haven't talked in so long. Girl, you're crazy. So I surely am looking it up. I go to turn on the news. I turn on CNN. And the story is about Corey Monteith passing away in Montreal. He had a drug overdose and he passed away. When I tell y'all, I was up probably till 2 a.m. just watching the news coverage. I remember watching Nancy Grace because at the time I had this weird obsession with Nancy Grace. It was a Southern accent. Really just drew me in. I was like, wow, this woman is so mean and I kind of like it. But I was watching Nancy Grace at the time and she was talking about it and I remember crying all night, and the next day I woke up and I remember we lived in the townhouse over in like Baltimore County, and I remember I went downstairs, sat at our glass dining room table, and I had my little laptop with me, and just all day I'm just watching the news. Or could I have watched the news on the laptop at that time? I don't even know. But I just remember the entire day sitting at the dining room crying. And I feel like my mom and my brother, they just would walk past me at different times of the day being like, oh girl, she's a mess right now. Glee was such Glee actually should have been on this list because that had a huge, actually we'll talk about that next. Glee was such a big part for me as a child growing up and I knew that Corey Monteith had drug problems in the past, so for this to happen, it was so heartbreaking. I cried like I lost my own. And then the same, double down just a few years later when we lose Naya Rivera in what is one of the most tragic stories. Just heartbreaking, but those are times in which my parasocial relationship, I feel like that's when it really started. And I feel like the term parasocial relationship has a lot of negative connotations, but for me, at least the way I handle it, I know that some people, it can reach certain levels, but for me, it's just like, I'm so appreciative of what this person brought into the world and what they've done for music or for television or for movies or whatever their talent was. What they've done had such an impact on me that I can't help but feel so emotional about them being gone. That's to the extent of my parasocial relationship. And lastly, I will talk about Glee, at least for this portion. I have one more segment, then we'll wrap it up. But Glee was and still is a moment in time. There's currently, right now on Twitter, a thread going around, and it's like, what cover did Glee eat? I can't help but retweet everything I see. Glee was a moment in time. Ryan Murphy, he was at his heyday. I know that American Horror Story is so popular, but for me, in my mind, and I could be wrong. Ryan Murphy, if you're listening, please don't be upset. he will never be as famous as he was when he made Glee in my heart of hearts. Glee was a moment in time. It was a musical on TV, and I don't know if that had been done. Glee was just so... I want to rewatch it now because I feel like when I was younger, I understood the storylines, but I was really in it for the music. I tuned in for the music every week. But I feel like now I'd be able to kind of understand more of what was going on and maybe actually make some analyses on it. But man, oh man, was it a time and a half. It's just, vocally it was amazing. The cut, like, I credit Glee to me knowing so many songs I would have not known otherwise. Like, without Glee, in another timeline where I didn't watch Glee, if Total Eclipse of the Heart came on in Marshalls, I would have no idea what that song is. Now, if I hear that first chord, I'm gonna turn as if someone called my name. Like that quick. It's gonna be bad. Glee opened the world up to me for so many other songs. That's the problem. Like now when someone sings like if a theater kid sings a Broadway song and I'm like, oh, I know that song. And they start talking to me about theater. I'm like, oh no. We're very different people. My exposure to this song, the reason that I know Rose's Turn is because when Kurt Hummel had enough, he sang, all that, and what did it get me? Like, we are different people, but I understand the sentiment at least. Gangway roll, get off of my runway. Kurt ate that. Ah! You guys, Glee was a moment in time. I can't even really put into words, like, how much it affected me. Glee was just that show. Glee was a moment in time. All right, we're gonna take a little break and we're gonna get into my last topic, and then that'll be a wrap on our first episode, you guys. Oh, I'm so excited. We'll take a little break. All right, we're back. You guys, I'm actually very nervous to talk about this last topic because let's say my first episode takes off, right? People are going to be upset that I'm talking about this, but it needs to be said. So on Friday, this past Friday, it's not June, it's literally January. January 12th, Ariana Grande released her new single called Yes and this is after, a 6 or maybe a 4-year hiatus. And I have some thoughts, you guys. Now, I want to say this. I have not listened to the song. I haven't listened to the song, and I haven't watched the music video. She dropped both at the same time, which is almost kind of unheard of for artists now. I feel like they put the song out, then they want to see how people are gauging it, and then they'll put the visual out, but that's fine. Ariana, girl, do we have something to talk about. So the song Yes and is a response to her name constantly being in the media, which I can respect. I like when an artist puts out a song and they're basically just like, why are y'all always talking about me? Like, what's going on? Like, y'all don't know anything about my personal life. Why do y'all keep running your mouth? And that's all fine and dandy. Right before Ariana had this song come out, she had maybe one of the biggest scandals of her career. I think. Maybe, I'll say, yeah, I'm saying one of, because she may have had maybe 2 others that I can think of. A scandal where she was actually, quote unquote, at fault. Allegedly. Let me throw allegedly in there because I don't want people to be upset. I'm joking. Ariana Grande is currently working on the set of Wicked, or at the time she was. And it had been rumored. I remember when the news started slowly trickling out. So first it came that her and her now ex-husband, Dalton, that they had gotten a divorce. Or maybe that they were separated. I'm trying to make sure I get my facts right, but I want to say this. So it came out first that they were separated. And then a few days later it came that she had been seeing her co-star, Ethan Slater. Ethan Slater played SpongeBob on Broadway. Oh, girl. And people were like, no, Ari, this can't be it. I'm not going to drag this story out. I don't want to drag it out. Because it's not my story to tell. I'm just giving my opinion on it. It wasn't... How do I put this? A lot of people, a lot of fans... Oh, no, wait, my battery's going to die. Hold on. I promise I'm a professional. But that battery was full when I first put it in. Anyway, so the rumors started coming out. A lot of her fans are being like, oh, we don't know anything. Nothing's been confirmed, but she hasn't said anything. I don't know why she's not speaking up. people are giving on TikTok. I saw so many people being like, I work in PR, and this is what I would do if I was if I was on Ariana Grande's team. And they're being like, I would say it's a trauma response. And I'm like, this is not the serve y'all think it is, but okay. I didn't know what to believe, but also at this time, someone on TikTok had pointed out that there had been a suspicious timeline of when she got into relationships and when her love interest relationships ended. And the one that I already knew about beforehand was when Naya Rivera, who we just talked about, when Naya Rivera was dating Big Sean. And in her audiobook, I remember listening to this chapter. I'd only listened to a few chapters. I listened to this one. She talked about Mark Salling, and then I listened to one where she talked about Leah Michelle. But I was listening to this one, and she says that her and Big Sean had been arguing. They were dating. Everything was fine. She had already kind of and actually I had beef with Big Sean. I'm going to say that in a second, but I had beef with him. But she said they've been arguing, and she was like, okay, well, I'm going to his house. He told her, you're not coming to my house. She said, I have a key. So now what? She pulls up and Ariana Grande is in their house. Okay. Now, mind you, I wasn't there. This woman wasn't recorded or photographed. She could have been lying. Anyone could be lying about anything. But if what she said is true, then it's like, okay. So fast forward, we're now at this Ethan Slater thing. Is she dating him? Is she not? Did Ethan leave his wife and his newborn daughter, or did he not? No one knows what I'm hearing. Things being like, oh, no one's confirmed it. Ethan and his wife are already separated or whatever. What I do know is that when Ethan's wife came out and she said that Ariana has been to our house before, Ariana and me I thought we were friends. Now, I don't know if she said this. I might be lying because I don't know the exact timeline. I don't know if the baby was born yet, but she may have said that Ariana held the baby. I don't know if I'm making that up, like for a dramatic effect, or if it happened. But if that last part didn't happen, then the first two definitely happened. Ariana came to the house and met the wife, and she considered them to be friends. Now, we can say, oh, Ariana hasn't confirmed and we don't know if they're dating. That's fine. The wife said something, though. And I know what people are going to say. We have to blame him, too. He wrecked his home. Yes, of course. Ethan Slater, I'm talking directly to you, and I hope you're listening. You are spineless and you are a loser. Anybody, and I will maintain this. If you're in a relationship and you are actively seeking people and you're not telling them I'm in a relationship and you are trying to go around and cheat, you are 1,000% to blame. I will never blame the other person if they do not know you're in a relationship. People are going to say, oh, well, the other person isn't wrecking their home. It takes two to tango. Let's be very honest here. I know people want to say, if you're in a relationship and you're cheating, you are solely responsible. I think that's a problem. And that's my opinion. And I understand if people have a difference of opinion, but this is my opinion. Because if let me finish the thought. Ethan, you are spineless and you are a small, small man. You have no respect for the family that you have built. You have no respect for what you put your wife through during her pregnancy. Because a pregnancy has so many tolls on a woman. You put her through all that. You wished her happy Mother's Day. And then you end up sleeping with the first woman to probably give you attention in a very long time. You are spineless and you are small. And it is up to your ex-wife. I'm assuming maybe ex-wife at this point. It is up to her if she would want to continue to keep you in their life, but I hope that she doesn't. And let me take it back a little bit, but if the universe says it's so, and you and Ariana break up, I hope you are left alone. I hope you never find happiness again, because you broke up your home. Your wife was devastated. She went right to the magazines. SpongeBob would never. But Ariana, I'm about to talk to you in a second. I feel like Wendy Williams, which I was just talking to my friend about this. Wendy, one, health-wise, I hope she's doing okay, because I feel like I've been hearing a lot of negative things about her health, but Wendy got out of the talk show game too quickly, because just with all the topics that have been happening nowadays, she would be she'd be the person I want to hear from. I'd love to hear her opinions on this. Unfortunately, we can't, and that makes me so sad. Ariana, when the wife said that Ariana is not a girl's girl, that cut deep. as a girl, the only thing I strive for is to be a girl's girl. There's nothing more I love than being there for my fellow woman. Going out to the bars, if I see a girl getting cornered by a guy, I'm gonna find a way to insert myself. And I heard, if you have a TikTok, or, I mean, she's pretty big. I think you would know her off of TikTok as well, but Drew, I don't know how to say her last name, I don't want to butcher it, but Drew, she is a Samoan woman, and she, like, her rise to fame has been her humbling men on the internet who say very misogynistic and just rude things. And she eats them down every time. She made a video recently in response to this thing that had been going around on social media of this girl who said she was getting harassed by men. Her friend stepped in, her friend got assaulted by these men, and the friend didn't do anything. The one that was originally getting, like, the one that the men were originally talking to, she did nothing. She watched her friend get beat up. And Drew talked about how growing up, and particularly when she was in college, she had no fear. When she saw a man harming a woman, she would always jump in to help. She didn't care what was going to happen. And while I say I do not share those sentiments exactly, I do have fear because I know that men are crazy. And hearing some of the stories that I have heard about how men react to women women setting boundaries, especially if it's a black woman. Oh, sorry, I burped again. That is scary, but I will still always try my best to make sure that women in public are taken care of. You know, I remember once I was walking downtown, I was coming home from work and I was walking to the bus stop, and I saw this girl, and this guy was like, he was like looking, me and him were walking next to each other, walking down the street. And this girl, I just noticed him, he was staring at her very, very long. And she turned up this corner, and I noticed he was going one direction, and then he like crossed the street and he was now following her parallel. Now, mind you, I had a bus to catch. I wanted to go home, but I was like, I don't like the look of the situation. I rerouted myself. I like took another walk up, and I walked to where I would be ahead of her. And I ran into her. Y'all, I'm not kidding. I literally made up a name. I said, "Oh my God, Anna, how are you?" And she gave me a look, and I'm like, "Anna, hey girl." And I'm trying to get her to recognize, like I'm trying to get her to not be like, "I don't know you," but she picked up the thing eventually. And I feel like I was in a movie at this point. I'm mumbling to her. I'm like, "The guy across the street has been staring at you. We're gonna walk the other way." And I'm like, "Oh girl, let's go get some coffee real quick. I haven't seen you in so long." And we walk the other way. We go to stand at the Starbucks at the time. We're just like waiting a little bit. And I was like, "Girl, he been following you for a little bit, and he even rerouted himself to keep up with you." And she's like, "Oh, I didn't notice. Like I was on my phone. I'm trying to walk my dog and whatnot." And I'm saying all this to say, I'm a girl's girl. I will go out of my way to make sure that women are okay, because this world is so unsafe for everyone in general, but especially if you are a woman. And she was like a little, she was mixed with something. Because we had a little bit of a conversation. And I think she said, "Yeah, I have a little bit of like everything mixed into me." But I think she said that she was like mainly Sri Lankan. I think. This was such a long time ago. My memory is so shit nowadays. But, you know, I say that to say I go out of my way to make sure I'm a girl's girl. If someone ever said to me that I was not a girl's girl, I would feel that in the depths of my soul. Because what do you mean you don't think I'm an ally? And so when I'm listening, when I hear that the wife said that about Ariana, and still she says nothing, and she continues to make her music, or no, she continues to make her makeup line. She's working on her movie. Her and Liz Gillies are doing their annual Halloween costume thing. And she says nothing. And then she comes out with this song that for more or less is basically saying, "That's not the whole story. You know, I did it, yes, and." And what really gags me, and this is actually a key, because we were talking about parasocial relationships earlier. Her fans are saying, "Oh, well, her personal life doesn't affect me. If she saw that man, that's between him and her." In what world are we in that Ariana Grande's fans are respecting her personal boundaries? Now, I'm not saying that it's okay that people feel so attached to celebrities that like we feel like we should have a way in, or you know, I'm not saying that that's okay, but it is a sign of the time. So let's not act like that's unheard of. We all have a connection to these celebrities. Like I said earlier, at least for me, parasocial relationships stem from the idea that I think an artist is so talented that I feel connected to them because I'm so appreciative of their art that they've released into the world. So now all of a sudden, now that she's done something wrong, now it's her personal life. I can't say anything about her personal life. I don't know her like that. Interesting. They're not the only fan base to do this. I know a lot of fan bases, and I might be a part of some of them, who, when their artist does something wrong, they're very silent about it. And I get it, because sometimes it is easier to be silent. Sometimes it just is. I totally get it. But for that to be the response, y'all are unserious. Y'all are unserious as a fan group. I'm going to say it right now. Again, because this is the main thing people are going to say. Why are we blaming her? Why aren't we blaming him? Two things can be true at once. We can blame him. He's a loser. He's a low-down, dirty man, and he deserves nothing but the worst. But Ariana, girl, if you went to their house and you met the wife and she thought y'all were friends, and now she's saying you're not a girl's girl, that's not for me. I'm sorry, that's not for me. I am kind of on the cancel culture, right? That's not a cancelable action. People have so many opinions about cancel culture. Oh, it's not real, blah, blah, blah. I'm not here to talk about any of that. I would say more or less, when it comes to most people, I'm able to stand on business about a lot of artists more than other people are. Case in point with Doja Cat, I know everybody was like, I'm not listening to her anymore. Like, she said X, Y, and Z. And then right when Agora Hills came out, y'all said, kissing, I hope they cut us, whether they like it. Like, y'all were all over it. I'm done with her. I can't listen to her new music anymore. I might turn on Freak Like Me every now and again, but really not that much, because Doja Cat pisses me off now. But Ariana, you make me want to stand on business about you now. I don't know about you. I'm not expecting her to put out an apology. At least not to us. I don't want an apology for what she did. It has nothing to do with me in that sense. What I want to know is why? Like, what? First of all, he's ugly as sin, so why him? But why, when people connected the dots and they said Ariana keeps getting into relationships with men, suspiciously after they've broken up with someone, or it is an unclear timeline when these people started dating, why does that keep happening? These are genuine questions. Why does that keep happening? What is going on where somehow you keep finding yourself in these situations with men fresh after a relationship, or in this situation when they're married and with kids to somebody? What's going on? Why is your response to this just yes and? I'm upset about it, because I do like Ariana, and it is sad. I don't want to write her off, because she might not be like a top tier performer for me, but vocally she is stunning, and it would make me sad to not listen to anything of hers anymore. But I think it's pretty deplorable, and that might be a very harsh word, but it's just how I feel. It makes me very sad that she did this. Ethan tore up his family. He's the one that wrecked his own family. But Ariana at least had the getaway car ready. I don't know. You guys, I don't know. But I think we're good here. I think we're good. Oh, I'm so ready to wrap this up, because I'm almost tired of sitting here now. I have this light in my face. I'm about ready to wrap it up. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I'm looking forward to seeing y'all again. Y'all be safe out there, be kind, and let's keep it realer than real. Bye!